Every time I think I have a good handle on vintage Star Wars prices, some items come along on eBay and I'm like, what in the living hell is going on? Not everything in this list qualifies with my head scratching, in this stupid YouTube thumbnail, but there are a few items in today's video where I have no idea what's going on as to why they sold for the price they did. But I wanted to at least show them to you and give you guys an idea of some of the insanity that goes on eBay. A lot of these actually were pretty fair deals. Some of them even below, I would argue, fair market value. But some of them, no idea what's going on at all. Let's start off with CIB. They had a number of different mint on cards that closed. This was a couple days ago. This one was a 12-back A SKU on the figure stand for Obi-Wan Kenobi. White hair. SKU on figure stand, AFA 75. So this is the earliest of the early 12 backs for Ben. And we've seen some 12 back Bs and Cs in a 75 grade that have gone for more than this price. So I don't know why this one went so low. The only thing I can think of is that the card score of 70 turned some of the more expensive collectors off. But there's a nice close-up that shows the SKU number on the footer underneath the figure there. And so that just signifies that this is one of the earliest of the early 12-back A's that were ever made for this particular character. So $2,075, probably, I would argue, actually a little bit low. This is where things fall off of the level of sanity. All right, this is, I have no idea why this one went as high as it did. This is a 48-back A Cloud Car Pilot, AFA 80, 80, 85, 80. And, you know, CIB was kind enough to even show that the card has warped, right? Which does happen sometimes. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does occasionally happen where the rails inside the cases, maybe it gets exposed to too much humidity in people's display room or whatever, but the card starts to warp inside of the AFA case. And this is why I've been a big proponent of cases, especially on the sides of the mint on cards. I think those rails should go all the way up, in my opinion. Number one, if you send something in that's got a little bit of card wave to it, it would help straighten it out. But it would also, number two, prevent this from happening. But AFA was kind enough to at least show that, hey, this is not in perfect condition. And, you know, this is one I have in my collection. I've got one that I bought ungraded, 48 back A, and I paid less than $300 for it, and it's unpunched, clear blister. It came back with an 80 plus from Collector Archive Services. So pretty comparable, I guess, to an AFA 80. And, you know, again, I paid $300 for it. It wasn't that long ago. You know, it was maybe a couple years ago. It's not like this is the offerless 48 back A Luke Hoth, right? That's a known, very rare one. So maybe this one is low on the population report. Maybe I should have checked that before I started this video. But I did not, and, you know, maybe I'll do that just to see if I'm missing something, but, you know, maybe there's a few of these on the population report, but this is one where it's not rare. I mean, I've seen several 48 back A Cloud Car Pilots in good shape for sale, either graded or ungraded on eBay. And for some unknown reason, this one sold for $1,813. Again, it only takes two to tango. We talk about that when it comes to Hakes and Heritage and some of these other big auction sites. If you got two idiots that are willing to throw nuclear bombs out in terms of their bids, which I have been guilty of, all right, I'm not criticizing you if you happen to be the one that did this. Do I think it was kind of crazy and maybe a little idiotic? Yes. Have I done it before myself? Absolutely. So, you know, I'm throwing stones from a glass house, all right? But 1813 is so far beyond fair market value, in my opinion, that I don't know why it sold for that much. But I wanted to at least show it. This layout Palatoy, this is an AFA 85 and it sold for $10.51. You could maybe make an argument that that's a little high, but it is an AFA 85. It is a clear blister Palatoy foreign card back. And, you know, I've seen ungraded examples go for $500 to $600. You got an AFA 85 that you're looking at here. I would imagine that there's even fewer of these on the census than, you know, an 85 clear blister Kenner card. So I don't think that, this is a price I'd be personally willing to pay. I'd pay $1,000 for this all day long. So I'm not going to dog anybody for that one. Bosk, likewise, this is an AFA 85 unpunched tri-logo. I've got an AFA 85 tri-logo unpunched, and while mine is straight 85s, I think actually mine's 85, 85, 90. This is 80, 85, 85. You're splitting hairs here. But I paid about that same price. I think I paid $650 for mine, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago at least. So this is actually, I would argue, a pretty good deal. I'd pay that number in a heartbeat too for an AFA 85 tri-logo. Maybe I'm a Boss fan and, I'm willing to overpay a little bit, but that's certainly in the realm. We've seen AFA graded examples of Han Solo trench coat Palatoy tri-logos. Maybe they were 85s and they went a little high, like 450-ish. But this one at $340, I thought was a great deal. I know who bought this one. And don't get me wrong, if I know who buys something and I feature it on the channel, I'm not going to automatically say it was a great deal, okay? I'd be perfectly fine telling one of my friends that they overpaid for something. This is not one of those. This is one I think that they paid a very fair price for at $340. And that's one I still need. So maybe now that you've got it, buddy, I can actually go for one. But that's a really nice example. I thought that was a great price at $340. Here was an Imperial Gunner, AFA 75 on the Power of the Force card. Fairly light to light moderate yellowing. Punched example. Circus World. I remember Circus World. $686. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm thinking of Children's Palace. Circus World, Children's Palace. It all sounds the same, really, when you start reminiscing about the 1980s and 1980s toy stores that are kind of secondary, other than Toys R Us or even KB Toys. $686 though, that's maybe, I would argue, a little high, but I think you could probably get one for less than that. But in all fairness, the yellowing on this was definitely nice. I mean, it wasn't nearly as bad as some. It got a 75 for the blister score. That blister ding at the top is maybe a little more than I'd be willing to go for, but it's a nice example. It's a nice example. I'm not going to kill anybody for that price. All right, now here's another one that supports the argument in my thumbnail that I don't know what's going on. This is the second example of a Rancor keeper in recent memory. One of them was on Hakes. It was an AFA 85. It was graded a clear label, just like this one. This one was graded a clear label. It's clearly not a clear blister. Excuse me, clear blister, not clear label. It's labeled on the AFA label clear blister. This one is as well. Now, there was one on Hakes that was an AFA 85, same situation. That one went for like $3,800. This is another one. This is an AFA 80 labeled as a clear blister, unpunched, very nice example, and very clearly has yellowed since grading. And in all fairness to CIB, they did, I think, note that. Bubble has started to yellow. So they did note that, but it still sold for $733. Folks, you can buy one of these all day long for $100 to $150 in an AFA 80 kind of quality that's in the same condition as this. Spend $55 or whatever it is to get it graded, $75 to get it graded, and you're going to get an 80. I mean, you can buy one of these all day long for this price. So I don't know why people are so obsessed with the label versus the actual item. $733 is too much. I could see maybe on the top end $333, but that's even pushing it. This is like a $250 item to me, max. So don't just buy the labels. I don't know why people do this, and it's not an AFA 80 80 clear blister anymore. And so this is the second example that what is it about the Rancor keeper? What is it? There's a subset of people that are obsessed with me. I mean, look at that face. If that doesn't look like me, I don't know what does. It's either me or Chris W. from Rogue 5 Toys. But $733 is pretty nuts. Here's another one that, was labeled clear blister, or, it was not even graded, but this is, I think, a price that you'd pay for a clear blister, but this is a very clearly yellowed blister. And it is a Kenner Canada, very nice example. I think it would get an 85, but it's a yellowed 85. It's not a clear blister 85. And it sold for $640. I mean, that's probably 2x market value. The Kenner Canada Princess Leia Indoor Combat Poncho is a very common item. It's, this one and Nikto, I think, are the two most common Kenner. Well, this is not even a Kenner Canada. This is a regular Kenner. So, I don't know. Somebody explain it to me. Why would you pay this much for just a U.S. car? This is not even the Kenner Canada. For some reason, I thought it was a Kenner Canada. So my brain's not working either. But for a 77A, Princess Leia combat poncho, standard U.S. card, it is nice, okay? It would grade very well. But this is not a $640 item, in my opinion. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Next up, I've got some Tri-Logos. Now, I bought an AFA 80 at auction from CIB. I paid $470 for mine. AFA 80 Tri-Logo Sand People. This one's clearly not an AFA 80, and it sold for $681. I mean, it's probably a 75. It's got some blister damage at the very top of the blister, but I think it would probably eke out a 75. Maybe not. It's pretty pronounced damage on the blister. Maybe it's a 70. But 681 is a lot of money. I don't know why mine at CIB, it's from CIB too. It's not like it was some like random auction. But my AFA 80 was CIB. I think I got it for $470. But this one sold for $681. So whatever. Here is a Tri-Logo Princess Leia Organa First 12. Now we know is an expensive item, right? There was that AFA 85 that CIB had recently that sold for, I think, close to $3,000, if not above it. This one sold for $2,000. This is probably a 75, pretty comfortably a 75. So I could see that price. I don't think 2,000's out of the ballpark on that one. Luke Bestman, here's another one that, CIB had in an AFA 85 that sold for in the $2,800 range, if memory serves. Maybe the brown hair went a little bit less. It might have gone like $2,300, $2,400. The yellow hair, I know, sold for $2,500, $2,800, somewhere in that ballpark. This one, I think, would grade very well. Very, very well. This one's got an outside chance at an 85. Minimum, it's an 80 plus, in my opinion. So, again, $1,646, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. This is a kind of item, if you're looking for these really high, expensive items, roll the dice if you got the money to do it and save yourself some money and grade it yourself. That's a good example of one. Kind of what I did with the Kenner Canada Dengar. I couldn't find it anywhere. And then, lo and behold, an ungraded one came up. So I rolled the dice on it, and I sent it into AFA, as you saw. And it came back the highest graded on the entire population report. Now, that one worked out. I've had many more that have not worked out. So you got to be willing to roll the dice a little bit on some of these ungraded items. But I think this one would grade very, very well. It's a beautiful etched edge blister on this one. 1646 is certainly what I would pay. Here was that very rare transition sticker, Kenner Canada. This is the one I was thinking of. I got it conflated with this one. The Leia Hoth Kenner Canada, but this one had the transition sticker. Now, I've seen ungraded examples for lesser characters, albeit with clear blisters, go for $1,800 to $2,500, okay? This one did have a yellow blister, so I knew it would probably hold the price back a little bit, but $1,236 is still, I think, a very fair price for what this is. Now, keep in mind, for what is the transition sticker? That just means that when they were transitioning over to from ESB line of toys to the Return of the Jedi line of toys, Kenner Canada had these stickers that they just slapped on top of the ESB logos. And so they just used old stock of Empire Strikes Back characters, slapped the new logo on there, and then sent it out to retail. Interesting strategy, kind of a lazy strategy, but it's a good way to at least get rid of their old stock. But as a result, when you find these, they're very rare and very pricey because they didn't last long like this, right? These were kind of a temporary stopgap. So $1,236 I thought was pretty fair. Some other Tri-Logos, $568 for the TIE Fighter palette. I thought that was a pretty good price. I think it gets the 80 grade and certainly a much better deal than what I paid for my AFA 80 on Hakes. I think I paid close to $900 for mine. Here was a Leia Hoth Tri-Logo. Obviously had a big crease going through the middle of the card. $544 reflects that price. That's about as cheap as you're going to get for a Leia Hoth Tri-Logo. Here was another nice Tri-Logo, although the Hoth Stormtrooper did have what looked to be a crease or a big scratch going through the left-hand side on the front of the card. It's a shame that it did because it was unpunched and it had a beautiful blister on it. Still sold for $455. Han Solo First 12, it had a soft crease in the upper left, as you can see there. Very faint veins on it. I still think it has a good chance at an 80 grade. For $430, I'd be willing to roll the dice on that one. I thought that was a good deal there. R5-D4, this is another one that I thought was a pretty fair deal. I couldn't find it on the sold listings on eBay, but I know that AFA had one that sold for double this price or close to it. It was in the 8s, if memory serves. It might have been even higher than that. In fact, I think it was, now that I think about it. I think it was over $1,000. It was an AFA 80 It was an AFA 80. It wasn't even an AFA 85. But I remember marveling at it because I've got an AFA 80, and I paid like, I don't know, $400 for mine. And it sold for like over double that. It was over 1,000. I remember that. So this one I think's got an outside chance at an 80, and you get it for $450. I think that's fair. That's a price I'd risk it at. Finally was the Ewok Battle Wagon. This was an AFA 80 plus Ewok Battle Wagon, mint and sealed box. This is a very tough to find item, and this is one that kind of fell through the cracks. I feel like 80 plus grade for $12.47. I mean, I see them mint and sealed box ungraded go for this price or more. I mean, I've seen $1,600. So that was a steal, I think. And now the market may be saying that they feel like it was overgraded. You know, it does have some litho tears and things like that, but I don't know. That feels like a pretty good deal to me, just looking, you know, outside looking in for someone who doesn't collect the Power of the Force line. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at recent sales. Thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to leave me a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon.